Hello, my name is Rick Houston, and welcome to the Scene Vault Podcast, your source for all things NASCAR history. Presented by Las Vegas Motor Speedway, America's racing showplace.
I'm playing pinball, the bar is to my left, so I turn, you hear the kerfuffle, I turn, there's my mother in the door, and we were ridiculed for this and that. Well, I can still go out and play hockey, I can still go out and play football, most of them guys are, fat and gray and bald now, and I can go out and play music. So Andy's in the parking lot. Well, we're assuming the parking lot was the infield. Gate landed down. Well, can he drive it in? No. I mean like Route 20.
The day NASCAR and all of us associated in any way with NASCAR forget its past, that's the day we don't have any future.
You are a racer, but you're also an accomplished musician. Did you take lessons on any particular instrument, or did you just pick it up along the way?
I don't see myself as accomplished, but I think it was 5th grade in the public school system, which, it's that's another thing. I don't want to really get into how sad it is. When I was a kid, my school district, this is in Chicopee, had a band. They had like 3 different bands before you got, 2 or 3 before you got to high school. You had a beginner's band for like 5th and 6th grade, an intermediate band. Then you had a band of mostly like 7th and 8th graders who were pretty good. They just weren't in high school yet. So I started, and the only thing I wish I'd done different, I started on a saxophone. An alto saxophone, like, my parents rented it from the music store, and you go once a week, you get your lesson in school, because I grew up liking 50s music and stuff, and if you listen to like a lot of that late 50s rock and roll, there's a saxophone in there, which, like Coasters and stuff, you might be familiar with sounds like Charlie Brown and Yakety Yak and stuff like that. And that was actually a guy, King Curtis Ousley. He was, I think he was from Dallas or Fort Worth, Texas, but, living in New York, where most of that stuff was recorded in New York City back in the day. So I wanted to be a saxophone player, because my buddy, 1 year older than me, his father had forced him into taking keyboard lessons. So he had a small organ in the house. So we were gonna do it, and you just start out like that. So then I did start taking private lessons, and the only thing I wish they had me on a tenor sax, which is what you'll see me playing 99% of the time now. It's bigger, takes more air, but I had asthma and all of that stuff, so my mother didn't think I'd have enough air, and la. So I did have lessons on the saxophone off and on, and then then you're in the high school band. We were ridiculed for this and that. Well, I can still go out and play hockey, I can still go out and play football. Most of them guys are fat and gray and bald now, and I can go out and play music. They can't do that. So that was on the saxophone, high school lessons in high school, but I had so many other interests, because I had racing, and then cars and girls, and so I never was in 110% on the saxophone at that age. And a kid, 2 years younger than me in high school, he was good, because that was his deal. He was in his room practicing it all the time, and he was a good player. Ended up in the Navy band and stuff. Good. And later on, cued me in on a few things and whatnot. And then I always wanted to play harmonica. You'd see them, like them bluesy guys. And even in the rock and roll, there was harmonica here and there and stuff. So I tried a couple times in high school, never could make it stick. And then finally, I'm like 22, 3 years old, picked up another harmonica, and they used to come with a little instructional thing in there to, so I sat up one night till the break of dawn, playing till I could barely play When the Saints Go Marching In. Serious. I mean, just you know, like 6 hours later, I could almost do it, you know, and that's how I started playing harmonica, and then I just started really listening to the blues and stuff like that. There's good, you know, just cool old harmonica players in that realm of music and stuff. Just little by little started, you know, banging away on that, and then about 10 years ago started playing guitar because I just like sitting in the house playing my old country music, some classic rock, stuff like that.
Are you still in a band now?
I do go out with Sonny Ledford on occasion. We don't, and I mean, like 10 years ago, we're going across the country. I've been from Brooklyn, New York to like Seattle, Washington with him. And one year, I mean like 10, 11 years ago, I went out to Oregon like 4 or 5 times in 1 year. He's had a huge following like in Oregon, outside of used to play in this bar in Enumclaw. It was cool. It was what the hell is that? Your fish. What's the raw sushi? It's a sushi bar with a music deal in there. So this is like some Oriental guy owns the deal. It was just cool stuff, and playing for packed crowds and stuff out there. Around here, like no one gives a crap about us. We got our little deal, but it's you know, it's wider than white out here. You get around the lake, and it's all, you know, it's not even the loafer. It's like the sandal crowd, the flip-flop crowd and stuff, listening to the worst possible white people music there is. But, hey, it is what it is, although we are playing a gig at the Boatyard Eats, not too far from where we are now, middle of February, probably the weekend of Daytona or something. I think it's a Friday night show. So there shouldn't be anybody. There'll be some people there, and, you know, all the girls will be there waiting for the DJ and whatnot. So I go out, I'll do a show with him now and again. Last one I played with him was Bike Week in the fall at Myrtle Beach. I got other deals where sometimes someone will just call me, cool little band. They're a 3-piece. I hop in, makes it a 4-piece, and they do a lot of the old swingy rock and roll, basically the black man's music, from which would have been like real late 40s, early 50s, mid 50s, that the white people stole and turned into rock and roll. So we were doing the deal once a month at the Corkscrew in Birkdale, and then COVID came, and then did a few more, and then I was out of town, went up to Richie's old hotel for New Year's. They played New Year's Eve, and the place is shut down now. They've lost the lease there in Birkdale. It was a cool deal that you know, it's not your 99-cent drunk beer crowd wanting to hear some Cole Swindell crap on you know. So that's what I got there. I got another deal, and I haven't been out with them in a while. I'm the only white guy in that band, and we'll go down to like Thirsty Beaver, which is like old school country music. They're cool. Usually do like on a Sunday evening there, and it's cool because like these young people don't realize that you really can. Okay, maybe you ain't gonna listen to it in your car, but this stuff will get you going. I mean, I've had some pretty outrageous nights in there with you get the crowd fired up and stuff to decent old music, you know.
So, good racing or good music? You have to pick one.
Oh man,
which would you pick?
I guess I'd have to go music in the sense that I'm on a desert island. I can make a bongo drum and sing my old country songs to myself. I'm not going to have a race car on a deserted island or something. So that's the only reason I say that. It's I like the racing. I spend more time now. And Billy Nasowitz does the same thing. He's got all kinds of old pictures cataloged. He'll be on there printing. He burns through printer ink, printing out. It's just, I like the older stuff. There's always something pop, like a cool picture here, Maurice Petty changing the right front tire, go with his Wellington boots on. It's just so cool. I get a lot of that comes across my Facebook. I get these old Formula One deals come, and man, like the Formula One cars from the early mid-'70s, they were so beautiful. Like the John Player Lotuses, and absolute death traps, but just
well, besides that,
a lot of sad stories in Formula One. And I was able to do a bunch of work for a guy that he's connected to like Emerson Fittipaldi and stuff, so you could talk with him. It was just it strikes people that like someone like me would know about Formula One, and I'm not an expert by any stretch, and especially the newer stuff. I don't keep up with it, to the nth degree. But that goes back to when you were 6, 7, 8 years old. You didn't have pull your phone out. You had whatever you could get in the print media or this or that, or so on ABC Wide World of Sports, you were going to get the Monaco race 2 months later or whatever. But time, and that's how you learn. And you paid attention to stuff like that, I remember like a news blurb when Josh and Rent got killed and stuff like it. So you didn't. I wasn't fully connected to it, but you knew this guy got killed, that guy got killed, and so I like my old Formula One pictures. Stuff like that.
All right. So, of all the things that your buddy Rick Menner said that I should ask you about, he said that I had to ask you about your toolbox with the purple carpeted drawers.
All right.
So, what about your purple carpeted toolbox?
I think I might have been somewhere around the 6th grade or something, maybe not even that old, 5th or 6th grade. So my father's gas station on Saturday evenings, they would pull in, and I was able to, I knew where this truck was. I've got the truck back. Had 2 tow trucks, but they usually use this one. They would pull it in one of the service bays and put 2 of the cloth mechanic fender covers on it and play poker. So you had 2 guys on each fender and 2 guys across the hood, 6 people. Our fine police officers used to come in and sometimes partake in probably for friendly. I don't know, how the money changed hands and whatnot. But, so my job was to keep the beer flowing we had a Coke machine filled with beer, like in the storage bin and whatnot. My grandfather actually, because that was their daily deal too there, he would you got them little round keys go in, and that springs the deal out, and then you spin it out. He used to actually wear the threads off of that, and we'd have to go to the Coke plant in Springfield and get the replacement part. But anyhow, I'm just busking the beer, man, back and hey, man. And these guys throwing me dollars and $5s and stuff like that. So, and then typical, the phone starts ringing. It's my mother, So my father would always have someone else answer the phone, and then she, finally, like the 3rd time, he'd have to get on there. 10 minutes, honey, 10 minutes. And I'm just doing my job, man. Just sticking this money in my pocket. So we leave there, and we stop at the bar. The Champlain Club, which isn't even there anymore. They moved the traffic pattern and knocked this old building down. And all they had to do, they give me some quarters, and you get that fountain cola out of the deal. Now they're at the bar, and the pinball machine, if you were at the pinball machine, your back was to the door, and then a little bathroom was right next to it. So I went in the bathroom, and I straightened all the money out. They had like $105 or $110, which at that age is like, that'd be like having $5,000 today. I actually would have to do the math on it and see what it really is worth. But it's like, at that age, you never had $100 in your hand.
Now, how old were you?
Like maybe 11 or something.
Okay.
So, I got $100 in my pocket, man. This is like, man, I'm flush, and
Yeah.
I got it all wrapped up right back in the pocket, going playing. Sure enough, the phone's ringing and whatnot, and I believe this is one of the times, because if it weren't, the next thing, my mother is in the doorway of the bar.
Hello.
Well, yeah, you hear the guys, because the bar, if I'm playing pinball, the bar is to my left. So I turn, you hear the kerfuffle. I turn, and there's my mother in the door. And yeah, so I'm surprised she didn't scoop me out. And so shortly thereafter, I leave with my dad. It's like a couple mile and a half, if that, into the neighborhood. And he's like, yeah, good, good. He had won the last pot of the night. So he's like, yeah, good thing I won. He said, I come out all right. I come out about 60 or 70 bucks ahead. So I said, well, that's good, but man, I'm like 100 ahead, which I should have never said nothing. So we get home, come through the side door, and she's waiting there with the frying pan, yelling at him, yelling at me to go to bed, that I should know better, that not to be around that, and kind of like, you're thinking, Mom, it's like Disneyland for me, going to the bar with your dad and all them cuckoos and stuff. And I made $100, which I didn't tell her that, but
Here's $10.
Yeah, so man, I got in my room and I hit it. And I hear them arguing, and see, you don't do it with the kid, and the old man, half a buzz on, tells her to leave me alone. I'm smarter than the both of them. I made $100 tonight. Well, next thing, my door gets busted down. She's in there, rakes my room out, and finds the money. It's not how you earn your money. Takes the money. So I'm like, well, stealing from me makes it any better. I worked for it, I hustled the beer, cleaned up, kept the stuff right. Yeah. So a week later, and this is how the stuff was back in the day, the department store shows up and puts down this purple carpet, wall-to-wall carpet in our little, this is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath deal. Your bathroom is just this strip of, not like nowadays. So puts down this purple carpet. You gotta be shitting me, it's my money. That's what paid for it. So all them years later, now you're a teenager and stuff, and then there's that purple carpet, and finally, what a damn carpet, it was rotting out the floor underneath. So when they came and redid that, I took some of the purple carpet and I cut it up for drawer liners for one of my toolboxes. And to this day, I still have like 3 of them strips in it. I started out, first toolbox my dad ever gave me was a center section deal, and that's what I started with. And I have the purple carpet in there.
I was wondering if we were going to get around to the purple carpet.
Oh, it's
How did you wind up moving south?
Well, you're racing at Riverside Park Speedway. You're in Massachusetts, and I didn't really know anybody, but you heard of this guy went down, this guy, and they're down there and stuff, but you're just like, well, I don't know how this works or nothing, talking to some people and stuff. And I remember one guy, because I'm thinking again, I really should have. I came down here right around this time of year, somewhere in the middle of January, 1993. But I'd been thinking about it since like 86, 87. And I really wish I'd have got down here 87, 88. Just, there's a little more to the curve of like some really cool stuff, cool cars, cool people. So yeah, I can't complain, but you're just thinking about. I'm talking. There was a guy, Kenny Meisenhelder, used to film videos at Riverside, and many years ago, he raced on the Grand National circuit. And we're in the bar one night, and he's like, Stevie, look around. And he pointed out the crowd. He says, you see him, you see him. He said, they'll be here forever. He says, if you go and it don't work out, you can always come back. You'll fit right back in here with, pointed out like, 3 or 4 people. I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I'm getting a little more confidence. Well, I don't even own a car. So I got two nice tow trucks I had bought and paid for and whatnot. But no, sure enough, well, one of my bosses at not the phone company, that was a previous job, the bus company, must have been his son, probably did something silly. Cars at the one of the gentlemen's clubs. So, some of my Stafford and Thompson friends might be familiar with the Magic Lantern. Think it's in Munson. And so I'm working for the bus line. It's hard for me to guess. I tell my dad, hey, there's a car sitting there, whatever. If it, take the truck, one of the trucks. If it looks worth grabbing, grab it. If not, grab it and we'll scrap it. So it's a Ford Tempo, white Ford Tempo. And the kid, he must have been out there doing donuts or something, blew a half shaft out of it. So I pop a half shaft in it, and I'm good to go. Now I got a car, and I'm running around on repair plates they're like a variation of a dealer tag.
Yeah.
And got up my courage a little bit, so I was talking to Robbie Bouchard, who was Ronnie's son. I was friendly. I did built him a car years ago, was racing with him and stuff, and I called him, so I took a ride out to his house one night, seeing what, was going on, this and that. Well, Kenny was maybe on the verge of a deal. Everybody's on the verge of a deal, we all know that, for many years now. So, I'm like a night or two later, I just said, screw it, and I packed up my little New York Giants nylon duffel bag and a paper bag with some clothes, and I just drove off into it. I left like 2, 3 in the morning, driving into a half-ass blizzard and whatnot, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm going to be in the ditch in New Haven. Yeah, I'm going to be like 70 miles from the house, and the dream's over, but I made it through that, and I just started driving. I was going to stay originally with a friend of mine who was working for the phone company in Richmond. I was going to spend some time there because he had a friend of a friend that knew Junie Dunleavy. And so, well, maybe I can just be, the friend of a friend in Parla. I never stopped. I just drove it in, got off the highway in China Grove or Canapolis. I don't know if this is where it's at. I didn't even know where I was. There's no phone, no nothing back then. I'm like, I think I might have probably had a map with me and whatnot, and just started banging away. And had a job the end of the first day I was in town. It was like a stray dog,
Where at?
It was a privateer. His name is Ralph Munzert. So Ralph was originally a Massachusetts guy. I was talking to Kenny Bouchard, and Ralph come in, and Ralph was painting and whatnot. There's a lot of privateer work back then, doing this, that, ARCA cars, this, that, whatever, and took me home with him. Followed. I don't even know where I am now, because now it's dark. And then we would leave his house in the morning when it was dark, get home when it's dark. So I didn't even know where I was, literally. I'm sitting there looking at my map, figuring out where I am, and which is they just brought a stranger into their house and stuff. But I did a lot of work for them and whatnot. But this one thing leads to the next, and then there's a lot of stuff I don't even care to talk about. But I had $600 in my pocket, and he was going to pay me $50 a day, and which would have been $350 a week. You're working 7 days a week, so sometimes you got it, sometimes you didn't. Sometimes no biggie. And you just finally months later on to the next, couple months later on to something else, and this is how I made it happen.
So how did you wind up as Jimmy Horton's crew chief? Because you
I wasn't Jimmy Horton's crew chief. That's total. Mike Hillman Sr. was Jimmy Horton's crew chief, and everybody gets this story wrong, you know. So on the shuffle here, a good friend of mine, Andy Johnson, another product of Riverside Park, hugely talented fabricator and whatnot, still doing stuff to this day in a building in Kannapolis. But he was working for Hillman over there at Active Racing. They were in the back of Jimmy Spencer used to own it. It's now it's some hot rod shop or some. This is at the drag strip. So they bring me by, and I go to start doing some stuff there. So then I go to Michigan. I'm not like there full time yet or nothing. I go to Michigan with them because they got the ARCA car and the Cup car. So they just needed some hands. Well, I get to Michigan with them and you know, they got a good chance of winning the ARCA race and stuff. So it's like they're spending more time on the ARCA car, and it's like me and another guy just taking care of the Cup car and stuff. And I'm like, holy crap, man, this is it. This is the big leagues now, you know. Yeah. But they're shuffling between two cars and whatnot. So hey, you ever gas a car? I'm like, well, hell no, you know. Racing street stock, you know, we're putting it in 5 gallons at a time. And I says, but, you know, with some practice, I'm sure I could figure it out. She said, well, you'll have plenty of practice in the ARCA race. That's how it started. I mean, no lie, you know, gas all over the place. But they broke the motor in the ARCA car. And then, you know, I don't remember exactly what we did, and made the show and stuff. And it at the time, cars were getting sent home. So you're like a small one-car part-time deal. Making the show was a big deal in '93. So that's how I got started with Active. Mike Hillman took me in, and I actually ended up as a full-time employee there and whatnot. So
okay, so you weren't Jimmy Horton's crew chief.
I was not.
But you were working for him.
I was working for Active Racing.
The day that he flew out of the ballpark at Talladega.
Yeah. So,
what do you remember about that day?
My buddy Andy was spotting, and we're just in the pack of cars in the draft, you know. So now I'm so this is my second, Winston Cup race ever, you know, like, man, Talladega. So away they go, and you're just this, that, and the next thing. I probably didn't even have a radio, or not, because I believe I was probably going to catch can that day, because there is video of this if you want to look. It's kind of embarrassing to me, but there's video of this deal. I had a fire suit on, so I wouldn't have had a fire suit on if I didn't, you know, because I believe the crew from New Jersey was down. They had a guy that gassed and this and that. I'm pretty sure on that trip the guys from New Jersey were down. I could be wrong. They might not have been there. Can't remember for sure. But anyhow, and I could be wrong on this, but I'm trying to think if it weren't Kenny Wallace or I think someone got a flat tire up on the high side. And that's when the checking up started. So they're coming around, and we were probably like pitted around the middle of the front stretch there. So the pack comes around, doesn't look too harmful. And then the next thing, Andy is like, go low. And at that point, that's when we can't see him anymore. You just, you know, goes around the tri-oval and drops off there. And go low. And then I hear, oh, shit, which was Andy. And then the next thing I heard, so I did have a radio on. Next thing I heard was a grunt, like, and it must have been, because I talked to Jimmy, you know, weeks later or something. He said, man, once it went, he just did from his sprint car days. He just pulled tight to the wheel. You put your face in the wheel and get as small as you can. And he probably hit the button on the radio. I heard one grunt, and then that was it. So maybe an OF from Andy or something. So now Hillman's on the radio. Andy, what do we got here? So Andy's in the parking lot. Well, we're assuming the parking lot was the infield. You know, okay, landed down. Well, can he drive it in? No. I mean, like Route 20. So,
wow.
Horton's girlfriend Lisa was standing on her in a little Vic Irvin toolbox. Like, you know, like now people would be too embarrassed to have something that small, but it's what you had, and that was what you had for them days. She's standing on, she faints. So me and Leroy, I think it's Leroy Taylor, he was from New, like we catch her, we get her down and get her half revived and whatnot, and then everybody ran. I don't know where they were running to because the car's in the parking lot outside the track, not in the infield, and I just didn't know what to do. This is my second race ever, you know, so I'm just, and didn't realize the severity of the crash. Stanley Smith had, you know, basilar skull fracture and thankfully survived. But you don't notice, this is a big wreck. And I'm from Riverside Park Speedway. Big wreck is a big fight. So I thought I had to fight someone. I mean, it's stupid now, but but I'm like, well, I don't even know where to go. Do they come to me? Do I go? So I just stayed there. Didn't know what to do. Well, so then the next thing, there's Mike Joy, pit reporter for CBS. So I look at him, he's like, hey, man, what's your name? And so I told him my name, and he looked at me funny, you know? And I said, yeah, I'm Ed Dluzniewski's son. Mike Joy's first job in racing, he was the tech inspector for the figure 8 division at Riverside Park Speedway. And it's really, there wasn't even a tech inspector. It was just a job title, and it helped get him up into the announcer's tower. And that was pretty much, and I might not have this to a T, but this is very close to how Mike Joy started. So Mike said, okay, well, hang on a second here, man. We're going. And next thing, the microphone's in my face and the camera was rolling. I was not the crew chief. Everybody ran.
Wow. So you're the only one there.
I'm the only one in the pit box. And I'm like thinking, man, I'm ready for the fight. I didn't know no better. Still don't know no better, I guess. And so that's how that come about.
When did you see Jimmy that day?
I don't know if I've seen him that day because, and this story gets all, you know, told wrong and this, that, and that. Because, like, first and foremost, one, I was not the crew chief. We'll start there. Mike Hillman was, and Mike was awesome to me, man. You know, took me in and got me my first actual paycheck and stuff like that. So, the other thing was, well, back then, no super duper big deal. You know, today you'd have to go down to the technical center and let some white shirt, some white collar, like, you know, Steve Phelps is going to look at the car. He wouldn't know, you know, the dipstick from the throttle or whatnot. But back then, they just brought it back to the garage area. No fatalities. Stanley was in rough shape, but, you know, no fatalities. Got him in. So there's the car. I mean, like, destroyed. And craziest thing, when you can watch the videos of the wreck. He went to the bottom. He got hooked in the right rear, and it immediately barrel rolled up the track. On one of the rolls out the track, because there was no catch fence there at the time. A few years later, the catch fence was there, and it spit Ricky Craven back in for some more action. But But on the way out, one of the barrel rolls, as it was going over, the top of the car like landed on the top of the concrete wall and literally put a crease down the whole car. I mean, like the deck lid, the cage, like right next to Jimmy's head was it. I mean, 6 inches more it would have been on his lid, and so very fortunate and whatnot. But yeah, it put a crease right down. But now it's in the garage area, and we got to get this thing home. Well, there's no way you're gonna get it in the trailer. So back then, this was the infancy of this deal. I think his name was Cal, and he went under wheels. He was one of the first ones hauling tires and wheels for these teams. And he was doing it on a rollback out of Concord. You get them all on there, strap them down. So we made a deal with him where we took all the wheels and stuff that he was hauling, put it in our hauler, and he hauled that car back to Mooresville for us on his rollback. And it just sat there for quite some time. Had a Cy Earnhardt engine in it, so Cy come by, and he was at least wanting his cylinder heads. So I can't remember if he got the whole motor. The motor was still in the car, but you could probably cut 2 lines and get it out. It was just laying in there. And I actually had the right front spindle and tire off of that, and that got lost in a move and whatnot. But so the car was there, and eventually the owners took it back to New Jersey, and they were using it at the state fair, seat belts, save lives type of deal and stuff. But that was the story on that car.